watching Cover to Cover, our guide to the Sikh and Punjabi books that you need to read. This week we're introducing Beyond Otherness by Gurmeet Singh Sidhu. This book that we're looking at is a softbound edition published by Notion Press in 2015. The author Gurmeet Singh Sidhu is the writer of 5 books in addition to this one. He is an associate professor at the Guru Gobind Singh Department of Religious Studies at Punjabi University in Patiala. He is a seasoned veteran academic of Sikh studies, particularly with a view to interfaith studies. He has also supervised a number of postgraduate students completing their PhDs and has also been the editor of the Journal of Religious Studies. If we take a look inside the book, we find that there are 5 quite straightforward chapters covering everything required by the reader in this particular work. The first chapter focuses purely on the notion of interfaith dialogue. The second chapter introduces the Sikh experience of interfaith dialogue. The third and fourth chapters focus on specific Sikh concepts. The final chapter takes on the cover title, Beyond Otherness, a Sikh Experience. In addition to all 5 chapters, there is a preface, the briefest of author's acknowledgements, followed by an introduction. At the conclusion of the book, we find a helpful glossary, endnotes, a bibliography, and an index. There are no footnotes going through the book at the end of each chapter, and similarly, there are no endnotes for each chapter. They all appear at the end of the text. Both the index and the endnotes are somewhat brief in this particular work. However, they are complemented by quite detailed glossary and further reading bibliography. This is not a work that is easy to pick up and read. It is very, very detailed, and the concepts that are being covered are, as you would expect, academic. That means that there is a baseline of understanding or comprehension one needs to have of interfaith dialogue in the academic sense, as well as how Sikhi is perceived in the field of Sikh study. Whilst I was able to follow much of what was written in the book, the English grammar is not perhaps the easiest for the layman. But again, that might also be down to the fact that I am a non-academic, and perhaps as an academic I would have found it easier to keep on top of all of the different concepts and theories and ideas. It was still a fascinating read, and it is without doubt one of the most intriguing books on my bookshelf. It has taken me at least 3 years to read this particular book. Now, I've had to laugh saying that because it's the longest I've spent reading a book and rereading a book and rereading a book before I'm willing to say something about it. And I'm still not completely confident with my grasp on it. But I wanted to introduce this book because I think that in the world we're living in today, in particular in a COVID lockdown situation, this is the kind of work that can really help us to put our sense of what it means to be a Sikh across to the rest of the world, and for us to have more context and thinking about how Sikhi resolves problems that exist universally and not just for people from the Punjab and the surrounding regions. Certainly one of the most enjoyable parts of reading this book was the experience of reading the way the author presents themes from the Guru Granth Sahib and how quite literally shabads and passages from the Guru Granth Sahib are presented to the reader. Now, that's in no small part down to the fact that Gurbachan Singh Talib's interpretation of the Guru Granth Sahib is what forms the basis of the author's thinking and work, and Talib's interpretation in English of the Guru Granth Sahib is easily my favorite, and hence why I think I found that a particularly enjoyable aspect of reading Beyond Otherness. For the everyday reader that decides to go out and spend money on this book and looking at it, from a perspective as someone who hasn't come across Gurbachan Singh Talib's interpretation of the Guru Granth Sahib, I think you're in for a very pleasant surprise, because unlike many of the interpretations that we read every day in the Gurdwara or on the internet and generally in papers, Talib's work is by far, for me, one of the most poetic and the English interpretation that contains the most soul, if that's even possible. So I would say that this is a book to pick up if you are interested in the fields of interfaith dialogue, and certainly if you're an academic working in the field of Sikh studies. It is a intriguing read, and as I said, definitely something that needs to be on your bookcase if this is an area of interest to you. Just don't be too quick to rush and read it and think you're going to grasp everything that's being said. It's a slow, steady burner. But of course, we want to know what you think, so please leave us your comments below and share your thoughts on Beyond Otherness by Gurmeet Singh Sidhu. Join us again here at Cover to Cover. Make sure you subscribe to the Naujwani YouTube channel so that you won't miss another episode where we share the Sikh and Punjabi books that you need to read.